Women's Community Shelters works with communities to establish crisis shelters for women and children escaping domestic and family violence and homelessness. And we also work more broadly than that to look at housing pathways and housing options. A crisis shelter is an immediate response, it's an important emergency response, but there are next steps that women need. The PAYCE Foundation had been a strong supporter of women's community shelters right from the early days when we were establishing our shelter network. That relationship grew. The PAYCE Foundation valued the work that WCS did with community. So we crafted the partnership between the PAYCE Foundation, Women's Community Shelters and Bridge Housing to develop a model that could be replicated. The PAYCE Foundation were at a particular point in time, at a particular stage in a development project where they had some vacant, underutilised properties. And so it was absolutely a match made in heaven, so to speak, of being able to provide housing for women and children through a vacant property solution, and that kind of gave birth to the Pathways Home project.
We had an existing partnership with Women's Community Shelters, and they'd been approached by PAYCE to use some properties that had been earmarked for redevelopment in a meanwhile use interim solution to house women and children in need. And we act as the property and tenancy manager, and Women's Community Shelters provide the wraparound support. And together we help women get back on their feet and work on long-term housing solutions.
I arrived at the shelter because I was in a DV situation, and I left my home. It was myself and my 2 children. I was in denial about what was going on in our life for a long time, which was hard, but the shelter helped my kids to understand what we had just gone through and that it was okay and that life was going to get better. But being in this home, and like it's not just a house, it becomes your home. It really does, and it is important because you need this feeling again, especially when you lose everything, like you lost your home, you lost everything, like your safe place. To have this place again and their support is so important. It means everything.
Last year, 39,000 women and children presented at specialist homelessness services as a result of domestic and family violence. Since the program began, at the end of this year, we will have delivered 100,000 safe bed nights for women and kids through our Meanwhile Use program. The PAYCE Foundation providing those properties has enabled us to start to evolve the way we provide care to enable women and kids to have their own space, provide support to larger family groups. So it's really allowed us to innovate and provide directly to what community needs.
There are many vacant properties in Sydney. There's developers that are waiting to develop their properties, and we can work with you on a replicable model to keep those properties safe in the meanwhile and really deliver better outcomes for women and children in need.
If you have places available, definitely reach out and help, because there's mums, there's women, there's a lot of people that they just need help. They need the chance, they need the opportunity, just give it to them. They need it, they really do. It changes lives.
There is a need for accommodation for women and children now more than ever. If you have a vacant property, if you have an underutilised property, let us work with you to provide accommodation for women and kids who need it. Let us use that property for the meanwhile and get a housing outcome.